Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Okay. So last class we ended with we got introduced to JavaScript, and today we'll be going over output methods and some of the best practices while you're writing JavaScript code. And we will go over declaring variables. What is the concept of hoisting? Then we'll also introduce you the ways different ways of variables that you can declare and the data types that are present in JavaScript. Okay. I hope my screen is visible, right? Okay. So so now we'll be going over few of the ways how we could get the output in the HTML, like when we write the JavaScript code. And one of the main methods would be how to get the output. How can we see the output? And primarily there are four ways. And guys, one more thing is when I'm doing classes, I'm referencing to W3 schools and YouTuber called Hitesh Chaudhary. So if you guys want like more data or if you want to learn more, you could visit these two. I'll forward you the links for the both of them later. But if you want to learn more and you want to go in depth, these two platforms I'm referring to teach you guys. So if you want, you could refer that too. So the first method that we'd be utilizing to get an output. So one of the ways that we could get an output in HTML would be through get element document. So what are we doing over here is one of the main things that you need to know in JavaScript would be DOM. DOM is document object or object model. Okay, so when you're what I'm doing over here is I'm accessing the HTML document. That means if you take away the script, then if we look at this code, this would be as from the head and body, those they will be a document of the HTML code that I've written. And when I write this code saying that document.get element by id, so as you can see over here, I have declared this division. So in the previous classes, we saw that for CSS we gave while we are identifying a division, we gave two things. One was class, another one was ID. So here I'm doing the same thing. You could access the any elements from a body in different manners. Rather not be element get element by ID. There's a get query selector and other attributes that we're going to learn. But right now I've used get element by id, and this is one of the common ways to get any element that you want from the HTML. And right now I'm just written it in embedded JavaScript. But later on I will even show you how external JS works and all those stuff. But right now, to for better understandability, I've written in this way. So starting off with the division, it is assigned with a ID output. And what I'm trying to do over here is with the the script tag, I'm accessing the this division exactly through the ID output. And I'm trying to dot inner HTML will reference to the HTML that you're going to write over here. Okay, and what I'm trying to do over here is I'm trying to overwrite whatever is written here. So I'm going to take this data from right now you can see that I have assigned hello, this is displayed using inner HTML. I'm going to take this data and I'm going to assign it to the we are going to understand how constant everything works, but I'm assigning it to the data, and so the reference is okay. So once I give it over here the input, then it will be overwritten over here. So if I change this into something, let's say JS session. So one of you might get a question. So why are we assigning from here? Why can't we? Why couldn't we do this early? But it is one of the ways. It's a best practice to, if you're assigning any data or such as such, it is better to declare it to a variable than have a constant to it. Then assign it over here. This is like one of the best practices while you're writing the code, and it also increase the readability of the code. Hence, you have to write it in this way. And this is that we saw over here using get element by id. And second method would be something called as document.write. uh, I've pre-written my code because in the earlier classes, most of my time was spent typing the code, so I did this. As you know, so right now, the HTML structure is quite common. Whatever you written in the application and whatever you learned in the previous classes, we are following the same HTML structure. There's no difference in it. I've written a body, then there's a h1 tag, and the script, which is in embedded JS. Okay. So why do we need, we can also write it in, when we can access the element and we can write it over here there. Why do we need this document dot write? Is because whenever we use this document dot write, this is primarily used for documentation. Like if there's any documentation that you want to incur, or there's some articles or something that you want to write on your in your index.html, and it has to be dynamic based on the content. At that time, that you'd be using document dot write. And this is the second way of doing it. And the third way would be going over is using alert. Okay. Yeah. So this is the third way. Okay. Are you, any of you guys are typing along with me? Should I type, or this is fine with you guys? Should I copy paste the code, or shall I type it? Or am I going too fast if I copy paste the code? If you guys are following along, then I'll type the code. It's not a problem. So you guys can get time to read and understand the code. So guys, I'll rephrase my question. Okay, no problem. Sir, I'm gone a bit slow if possible. Sure, yeah, no problem. So I'll just summarize since you guys said I was a bit fast. So this is show alert, and this is document.write. Okay, so we just went over this code, this specific block of code, and you can see the HTML and the structure remains the same. What we did over here is we change the content of this division using this data, and we are assigning this to this, and we are manipulating the inner HTML. So whenever we try to do this, whatever the division didn't have any input earlier, but as soon as we render this, we saw that hello, this is displayed using inner HTML was displayed. So this is what we did in the first method. Second method, we use document.write, and here we are displaying this output. And third method, we could see any outputs that we want in the JavaScript would be using an alert button. Okay, so as you can see over here, I just gave a h1 tag saying that we're gonna do it using window alert, and I have again declared another element known as button. Okay, for this button I gave an id saying alert button. So, and it will be displaying show alert. As soon as I click alert button, what happens is JavaScript would be rendered. It will be always listening, like this called something always event listener. Okay, we'll go in the depth. What are the other event listener? For example, right now there's only click, but there's other event that could take place like mouse up, scroll down, scroll up, and submit and click. So there is other event that we are going to study. But right now I've used add event listener, and we are listening for a function of click. So on what are we listening to the function of click is whenever specific to this alert button, you can see that I reference this alert button using ID. So whenever during the when during my HTML is being as soon as it's rendering, let me refresh. Okay, so as it's rendering, we could see that it will be always listening to for a click event. on the button, on this button, with ID of alert button. So as soon as we click the event, so you could see that there will be a alert displayed. So by default, so here again I'm declaring some data. I could display anything, not necessarily this. I could display what I want. So whatever happens is, by default alert would be displaying a model. Okay, so whenever I do window.alert, and whatever data I want to display it in that, I'll be passing it as a parameter, and that will be shown in the alert box, as you can see. Let me refresh the code. Okay, so you can see that JS is. So here you can see, and the only way to exit this alert box would be clicking OK, and that's how this is a basic third method of how we could see the output. And usually we use alerts if there's any, like, anything is wrong, or we want to show something, or we want to highlight something, then we would be using alert. If there's any errors or some such sort of things in JavaScript, and we want to display it to user, we'd be using alert. And this component, whatever you saw like a pop-up, these are called as models. Okay, so and you can see the only way that you can exit this with the clicking on OK button, but this can be modified based on however you want, but that's a small example. And fourth and most common way that we usually do is through console. Okay, here it is. So this is the most common method that we use, is through console logging. So it is called console.log, and through this we're gonna, like, any JavaScript output that we want to show, we would be doing that with use of console.log. And where you can see this output would be, you have to go to the inspect. You have to go to the inspect, so developer tools, and here you would have elements and everything, and on the top right corner you'll be having a tab called as console. As soon as you click over here, you can see that it was logged. This is called logging, and you can see whatever the message that I have put over here. You can see it has been logged. So even if I change this and write something, good. And I save this, so you can see that this has been refreshed, and however I want, I could log this. And this is one of the most common ways. And whenever you're writing JavaScript code and you want to debug, or you want to see what's going on, then you can see this. But right now, I have written the code in HTML, hence you're seeing it over here. Otherwise, if I write a plain JS code, such as let's say a script.js. Okay, I have script.js, and I write the same thing in script.js. Let me show you an example. I'll be taking this code and I'll link this. So as you can see that I have linked this file, and whenever I try to do this, it will be logged. Okay, if let's say I have not written this in a HTML page, so I'm going to just run this. One way you can run this is, last class I asked you guys to install Node.js, right? So if you install Node.js, then you could try this. So we have to first make sure that you're in the same directory. So as you can see over here, I have script.js in the same directory, and I'll be just running that file. So over here you can see that if I log something, it will be displayed in the terminal. And for to explain the further concepts like such as semicolon and all those best practices and stuff like that, I'll be using the same node concept. So make sure you have installed node. To teach you guys, I'll be using the same node command to run my script JS code. Okay, so is this clear? Do you guys understood the concept of outputting the various methods that you can use to output your code? Is it clear? Okay. So now I'll be moving on to the next few, one of the best practices that you should make sure that you're doing when you're writing JavaScript code. And as you can see here, every, as soon as I end a statement, I have a semicolon. And it's not necessary that you have to put a semicolon. Even if you don't put a semicolon, the code would run. It's not a problem. But as I said, one of the best practices is to make sure that you put a semicolon over here. And when you're writing, if there's no spacing between operator and the operands that are next to it, it is fine. You can do that. There won't be any error. But between a keyword and identifier, I suppose you guys know what is identifier and keywords, right? You guys know it, or should I explain that? Have you guys heard about keywords? Okay. So what are keywords and identifiers? Give me a small example. What are the differences? What is a keyword? What is an identifier? Guys, you said you know what is identifier and a keyword. So tell me the difference. What is the difference between identifier and a keyword? So you guys know it, or you guys don't know it? No one is replying. You could, if you know it, you could put it in the text box. Okay. Keywords are like if, else, switch, etc. Okay, and identifiers are keyword keywords are predefined and can be used as identifier, but the identifier is used as name variables. So identifier labels are variables. Keywords means it is reserved. Identifiers are the names we give to the variable form. So built-in functions. Okay. Identifier. Okay. So yeah, you guys are right on with that. So as you guys said, keywords are those are reserved words. They're already defined by the JavaScript itself, and identifiers are nicknames or something that we give by ourselves. And same thing whenever you're with any other language, as as you guys learned in Python and Java and so on, identifiers follow the same rule over here. You can't give a identifier name such as you can say data and you give a space and you type something else. You can't do all those stuff. When you're the same rules follow here. When you're writing an identifier, you have to make sure they're in. They start off with a alphabet, and whenever they have to start off with an alphabet, and you can't give any so you should avoid giving special symbols, and you are allowed to give underscore. It's a common practice. And one more thing is there are three different ways usually how programmers use identifiers. One of them would be something like let's say stored data. That would be like this style would be called as camel casing, where you are whatever the second word comes, you'd be capitalizing it. and one more style would be where you're giving underscore to it. Okay, and these are the two common modes. There's nothing like you have to use this or that in such manner, but it is up to you however you want to declare identifier. But these are the two most common use practices, and it is better that if you stick on to those two, so that you would increase your code readability. Okay, and so whenever you're writing code and you have something like you guys probably have explored this. There's an extension called as Prettier. Have you guys heard about it? Have heard about Prettier? Have you guys used it? Any one of you? Have you guys seen this extension? Prettier, anything? Yes. Okay. Good. So you'll be using this or whichever is comfortable. Usually, Prettier is like as you can see, it is the most downloaded and it is okay. So what Prettier does is Prettier is for formatting your code. So making sure that your code looks clean and clear. Like for example, I don't have a structure. Like for example, I write my code like somewhere over here. I have everything cramped up. So I'm writing as such. Let's say, can I even take out this? Can I take out this? So as you can see over here, this code is not really readable. Like if you look at it, if you want to read this code, it is quite hectic. For example, if I put everything in a line over here, like this code is absolutely right. There's syntactically nothing wrong. Logically, there's nothing wrong either. So this code is perfectly fine, but you can also see that the output is being displayed. But only problem that you could see over here is it is not readable. So what we will do is there's something called as extension known as Prettier. You could install this extension if you want. And as soon as you're done with installing that extension, you could right click and there's something called as format document over here. In your VS Code, you would have this. So as soon as you click format code, so it will ask me, then I can click whichever code formatter I want. There's two of them, but I have clicked Prettier. There's other extensions. If you guys want to explore it and know more, you could do that. But right, you can see that it arrange my code in such a way that it is readable and it looks quite neat. So this is what these formatters would do. So they just organize your code and make sure it is more readable. So this is why we use Prettier. So if you have long lines of code and if you're written in like the way I wrote it in a single line or it's junky, if you just click on right click, then you can do format document. Then it will ask you which formatter you want to pick. Once you pick it, only first time you have to do it. Second time onwards you don't have to do it, but it will format your document in such a way that it looks clean. But this doesn't only apply for HTML. You could use this for anything. Even if I want to use it for this thing, in JavaScript, the same thing would happen. You'd go over here, format document, and it will make sure it's in a good readable format. So this is called as format coding, and this is just to increase the readability of your code. So if you're referencing your code to someone else, they would be utilizing it, and it would be convenient. So guys, last time we I discussed a little bit about how to declare a variable, right? So do you guys recall in JavaScript how do we declare variables? And on my screen there's already one way, but what are the other ways that you can declare a variable in JavaScript? Do you guys recall it? Okay. Let var constant. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Varun and Sonika, you guys are right. So var, let, and constant are the ways that you declare JavaScript variables. So one of the things that you guys need to remember, and it is you could, even if you want, you could search it up. It has the most common interview question is what is the difference between version JavaScript version ES5 and ES6. So prior to in the initial days of JavaScript, around I think if I'm right, 2015. Prior to 2015, there was no let and constant. There was only one way that you could declare a variable, that is through var. So why did they introduce this let and constant in ES6, that is after 2015? But double check on the date. I think it is to 2015, but you guys double check on it. But 2015 they introduced let and constant, where these let and constant allowed to have local scope, where var had only global scope. It caused many errors, and we'll go over what are the errors that came across. And as you can see, var, let, and constant are the three ways that you could declare it. So can you guys give me a situation where we'll be using var, let, and constant, and when do we use it based on your understanding? I'll explain it, but I want you guys to try to. When do you use var, when do you use let, and when do you use constant? Give me an example in the text box. Yeah, that's perfect. Var global, okay. So is there any data types that I'm constricted to when I'm using var, let, and constant? Like such as when I'm using var, I have to use only strings. When I use let, I have to use only numbers. Are there any constraints like that, or I can use it for anything? Okay. So you guys are telling me for var, let, and constant, I can use any data type. There's no constrictions. Constant, what? Constant are used that we cannot change. Okay. That we cannot change. So Anand, you're saying that when I use let and var, I can change whatever I want. But when I use const, I can do it. Constant pi 3.14. Yeah. So guys, so you guys are telling me that when I use var, let, and constant, they're not constricted to data types. So if you think that I can use constant, var, and let to any data type, just raise your hand. I'll repeat my question. If you think var, let, and constant, they can be used for any data type. There's no restraints of data types. Raise your hand. Okay. Okay. So whoever raised their hand, you're like spot on. There's no okay. Seems like okay. Yeah, you guys are right. So there's no, as you guys said, there's no constrictions. Use let and const, let, and var can be used for any data type. There's no constrictions on that. And as you guys gave a good example. So var, as you said, var has a scope that is global. So whenever I declare a var, I can use it anywhere. So if I declare a function saying a that's parameters, and this is the syntax of function. We'll go over this quite more. So let's say I wanna log this. Okay, so I didn't call the function yet. That's why there's no. Okay, can any of you guys tell me why there was error? Why as soon as I called this thing, there was an error? As you can see right over here, I have an error. Why do I have that? Okay, not okay. There's still an error, Varun. I put a semicolon. You want me to put a semicolon in here? Okay, I can put a semicolon here too. I think there's still be an error. There's still an error. There's still an error. I put a semicolon as you asked. There's still an error. Yep. Okay. You want me to give a different name? Okay, I'll give a different name. Okay. Yeah, right on. So as you can see, the mistake that I did over here is in in JavaScript there's something called as two things. One is declaring, and another one is assigning. Okay. So whenever you declare a variable for something, you can't declare it for another purpose again. So when you are declaring a identifier, you can only declare it for one one purpose. So as soon as you can see over here, when I declared over here, the var had was assigned a value, and when I when I gave the same name, there was a name construction. Hence it then there's something called as names space. So there was a construction of namespace, hence this was not loading. So as you can see over here, even the value b, and even though it is let me say I log it outside. Okay, i, I log this outside, and I declare this variable inside the function. So do you guys think since print no, and then you print, you can't use print in JavaScript. There's only logging. There's no print statement. If you want to print out anything, then you have to use console.log. There's no keyword as print. Like you have to use console.log, and you have to in any output that you want to get, you have to do that with console.log. So as you can see over here, console.log, and I have another. So so yeah. So as you guys can see over here, and again I came up with an error here. Let me take this out. Okay, and as you can see over here, when I declared it inside the function, and I can use it anywhere I want. So, and one more thing guys, let's say I do b is equals to 2 over here. So do you guys think that I would have an error over here, or I could do this? Will I be faced with an error when I do this, or there won't be any errors? So as you can see, I have declared my variable over here, but I have assigned a value over here. Am I allowed to do this, in normal coding, or will it lead to? Okay, we can do it. Error, no. Okay, so people who think they can do it, raise your hand. If you think you can't do it or it leads to an error, give a thumbs up. Okay. People who think this is an error, they could give a thumbs up, and people who think okay, okay. So I saw only 3 people have raised their hand, and I think thumbs up was given by 4 more people. But there's a strength of what is it, 43. So what are other students doing? So guys, I want your response. There's like so many people. My question was okay, 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 okay. This one. Okay. So yeah, I can do it. I can do this. I'm allowed to do this. As you can see over here, there's no problem. I was able to do it. It won't lead to an error. So whoever raised your hand, you were right on that. Whoever gave thumbs up, you guys know it won't lead to an error. It's fine. You guys are learning too. But so the concept that is taking place over here is it is called as hoisting. Okay. So what happens? The definition of hoisting is in JavaScript. So whatever you declare, the variables that you declare, whether it be using var, whether it be using let, whether it be using constant. So what happens is whenever you declare a variable, this declaration process that you do, it will be moved all the way onto the top line. So it will be the first thing that takes place. So it is called as hoisting. And remember guys, hoisting is a really important concept. Hoisting, closure, promises, these are like basic interview question that you will be thrown upon. So make sure, even if you don't understand here, you go back and try to understand what is the concept of hoisting. Okay, so as you see over here, I've declared this. I've also told I have declared the variable v, and over here we are logging it, and I got the value as 0. So as you guys can see over here, because I have assigned a value, and even over here I could give this value. Okay, so let's say I tried to log this b over here. Okay. And one more thing that you could do this is because var you can use it even outside the function is because var has something called as global scope. Okay, hoisting and global scope. So what happens is like whenever you try to do this, whenever you try to assign anything to the identifier named declared with var, you can access it anywhere throughout your JavaScript code, and even if you import it, you can use it in other JavaScript codes too. So you can do this. That's why it is called as global scope. And you guys have told me, right, var, and like if I change this to maybe let, it won't work. It will give an error because it won't have the scope. So I think so. I have just go over this. See. So what happens is, let's say I try to print this. So okay, that's weird. Okay, so as you can see over here, it has been like I can reassign it, and that's what is happening over here. Okay, so this is a concept that you are supposed to be aware of. That is hoisting. Okay, let's say I do it the other way around. Okay, take out and I have var for this, and do the same thing. Again, you'll see the output. Okay, so this is how var, like let in constant will work. Okay, now I'll be going over some of the concepts. So as you guys can see over here, since this is one more JavaScript code that I'm written. So right now we'll be discussing about three things. One is hoisting. Second one is declaring and assigning, redeclaring and reassigning. Okay. So whenever I use the keyword var and I declare a variable x with 5 or anything like that, as you can see over here, it is quite obvious that if I log this, I would get an output as 5. Okay, I'm running the same JavaScript. My bad. Okay, so as you can see over here, I got the output 5. So imagine since x is like we have declared it with var, right, and we have defined it over here, but I will try to print or log the variable x, and what do you guys think the output would be? I'm trying to print the x. What do you guys think the output would be? Would it be 5, or what would you think the answer would be? Okay, guys, I want your responses. There's only few selected people answering. I would appreciate if all of you are answering the question. It's not that hard question either. So okay, it's simple. So I'm just asking what will the output of be here be? Output from this. So okay. Maybe the variable external memory address. Okay. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 responses, and there's like 45 students. Okay, guys, let me at least expect half the class to answer. There's 44. Let me at least get like 20 to 30 responses now. Okay. Okay. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So some of you said undefined and comma 5. So Sonika, I think that's the right answer. So what would happen is you would get undefined. So you were right on that. So why we would get undefined is because again, as I said, it is hoisted. So you can assign, you can access this variable from anywhere, but the declaration only takes place after you do it. So for example, if the value is not declared and you try to access it from anywhere else, you'll get the undefined value, so you won't get a value. Okay, and this happens, and whenever you try to do this, whenever you try to access this variable outside, after before you were declaring it or anything like that, then the value will be given as unidentified. So it doesn't have a value yet, and it can't be there's no value that has been addressed to it yet. So there's no as you one of you guys said, the memory address was not even given to it yet. And you guys know what happens is, whenever we declare a variable and we have given a value, the value won't be given to the variable, it will be just referencing to the memory address. So as soon as you log this, what happens is it will go to the memory address wherever 5 is located, and it will print the data. Same thing whenever you this thing, same thing goes for other coding languages too. The value 5 is not stored in X, rather its address would be stored, and you're trying to access the address. So that's how this process happens, and hence you will get an unidentified. And Sonika, you were right on that. So whenever you try this, it would be unidentified. And second example we'll be going over here is, we saw that var has a global scope, and whenever I've written a small if else statement over here, and whenever I as you guys can see, let me just log this and comment that, and I'll run this code. Okay, you can see that var has a global scope, hence you can access it from anywhere you want. And let's say I did it as let, and I ran this code. You see, I can't do that because as you guys said, let and constant are local scopes. Okay, and whereas var is global scope, hence you can't access, whenever you declare a variable with constant or let, you can't access it after the scope. And how do you know where the scope starts and where the scope ends? Is through the curly brackets. Okay, if they're if you're declared it within this specific block, it will be accessible only over there. And let's say I want to do the same thing inside the statement, then I'm allowed to do that. I'll get an output too. But whenever I do it outside the statement, I can't do it because it is a local scope variable. So var would be a global scope, and let in constant would be a local scope, and var would be a global scope. Okay. So this is one more thing that you need to know. Okay. So I'm just going to log this. So right now we saw that with the example code over here, when it was var, we saw that it was unidentified. So whenever we try to print this, we got something called as unidentified, right? So let's say I repeat the same thing with respect to let. Okay, I do the same thing. Okay, and I say I'll just take this out, and let's say instead of 5, I gave it 15. I gave 15. So I'm gonna print this. So right now you guys can see, because this was unidentified, we already discussed, because of hoisting you can't access the value. We can access the value, but it won't be assigned anything, it will be unidentified. And whenever you try to assign it something, then you can print it. So that's how it works. And let's say I do the same thing. Okay, I'm trying to, I've assigned for the let, I've used the variable let, and there's a, and I've assigned it a value of 15, and I log it. So, and I assign the value of 15 to it, and I log this data, and it is quite obvious that I would get 15. Okay, let's say as I did over here, I did the same thing. So what do you guys think the output would be right now? So what would the value of a be right here? Okay, any other answers? So Varun said it's an error. So anyone of you want to try? So guys, what do you think the output of console.log of a would be? Not defined. Okay. Undefined. Undefined. Can't access before initialization. Okay. Undefined. Six. What about the other guys? Okay, 6, 7, 8 and 9, 10, 11, 12. So what about the rest of you guys? There's 42 students and I got response from like 12 of them. What about the other students? So what do you guys think output of A would be? It's not that complicated answers. You guys can give it a try. Okay, go ahead. I want everyone to respond to this, like, question and answer. It's not even that complicated of a question. I just want to know if I print this A, what is happening over here? What would the output be? Okay. Okay, there's 17 responses, guys. Okay, that's an 18. I want more responses. So be quick. Put your what do you think the output of this would be? Type it over here and send it. There's only like 16 responses and there's like 42 students. If I'm right. What about Yashaswini, Vinata, Vijita, Trisha, and then Srinitya? Okay. So what do you guys think? Yashaswini, what do you guys think the answer is? Sonika has been answering. Let's open it as Harshit, what do you think the answer is for this console log of A? I think I didn't see a Harshit response at all. Harshit, is Harshit in the call? So let me see. Harshit and Yashaswini, if you guys have joined, and I don't think so, your call is either sleeping or not active in the call. So I don't know what's your situation out there. Okay, I'll move on. So like as you guys said, it won't be undefined. It will be a reference error. So it will cause an error saying that you can't, like as one of you guys said, you can't access something before initialization. So this error you'll be facing it only with two things, that is with let and with constant. Even if I put a constant over here, the same error can be seen. Okay. So as you can see here over here, before cannot access before initialization. I think one of you guys even responded that in the right manner. So I don't know who it was. Sonika, you were right about that. So you can't access before initialization. That is true, and I've shown you small examples and of local scope. So as you guys can see over here, if I try to, the same thing will happen. It can't. It will. You will get a reference error whenever you try to run this code. As you can see over here and the line number 20 over here, you could see that there's error when I try to do this and it is saying it is not defined. So because this variable would be created and it will lose access in the local scope itself, and you can redeclare it whenever you want. So hence you can't access this element anymore. Okay. So next we'll be moving on to the concept of constant. So in the constant, what happens is like as you guys said, you can't change the value. Like once constants are usually used only to to keep a constant value where you are expecting your output to not change. Okay. So as you can see over here, I've already declared my constant a value. So if I try to redeclare it again, it won't allow me to do it. So what happens is, let's say I only did this and I got 5 and 5. And whenever I try to do it again, when I try to assign a value to a constant, it won't allow me. It will say assignment to a constant variable. I can't do this, but I can. But if I say, let's say this is, I didn't use the keyword const and I use the keyword let. Okay, and I did the same thing. So I'm allowed to do this. Okay, so don't get confused about other longs. And just there's some other values that I've been printing. Okay, so but whereas this only applies for primitive data type, and we'll go over the data type, types of data types that are available. And whenever you're trying to do this with primitive data types, such as numerical strings and all those values, you can't reassign. But wherever you use, whenever, like, for example, as you can see in the below example, I've given object. So you guys are aware of dictionaries, right? Have you guys come across dictionaries in Python? Dictionaries in Python. Have you guys come across that? Key and value pair. Yeah, exactly. So these, whenever you try to declare, for example, I would declare an object over here, and okay, so yeah, so the objects would be having, they would be existing in a key value pair, as you can see over here. I've given the key as name, and the value would be Alice. And if I want to, even though I've declared it in the constant, and if I want to change the value of any key value pair that I've written, I could do that. So let's say I gave the name as object, and I've given the object dot name, and you guys know it goes everywhere. So even in Python, you do the same thing. You have a object, then you do a square bracket, then you try to get the key whichever you want. So right now I'm reassigning. So let's say there's Alice, and I try to reassign the value, and it will be assigned. So let's say I print this, and I would get an output as name as Bob. So let's say I didn't do this, and I try to print it just right in there. So as you can see, it would be Alice. But this is only applicable if it is an um, object or an array. So for example, let's say I take this. Okay, what my value is doing. Okay, so I try to print this. As you can see, I can I can modify the data that is in an object. So if I want to push or something, and if I want to change the value of something, so let's say I want to do this. See, I can change the value. If I want to change any values, I am allowed to do that. So inside object, if I want to change value, even though I have declared it as a const, it will allow me to do it. So okay, I can just comment this. So like I'll just summarize what are the key differences between var, let, and constant. So var would be global scope all the time, okay, and let and constant would be local scope, okay. And coming to redeclaring, so what does redeclaring mean? So let's say I given a value, for example I gave x, okay. So let's say I have var x is equals to something, and I do again x is equals to 2 or something. So let me just this this is called as redeclaring. So for example, you have a value, you already initialized a value, and you want to redeclare something. This is allowed in var and let. So whenever you have var and let, you can reassign it, not declare it, reassign. So whenever using the keyword var and let, you are allowed to reassign. So even if you want to assign it multiple times, let's say I want to assign as x is equals to 1, I am allowed to do that, and I will get the output too. But this only works for var and let. Okay, so if I do the same thing again, I'll get the output. But whereas when it's constant, I'm not allowed to do that. Okay, so when I run this, I'll get an error. See, if it is constant, I'm not even allowed to reassign. Okay, and so when it comes to var, and I try to do that, and I do it once again as equals to something like 1, 2, 3. I'm allowed to do that. It will change. Okay, so these are some basic things that you're supposed to know. Okay, so redeclaring is not available in var, but you with let you can't redeclare, and even with constant you can't redeclare. But reassigning, you could do it with var and let, but you can't reassign again any value to constant. So you guys need to know The primary difference is var would be global scope, let in constant would be sorry, var would be global scope, and let in constant would be local scope. Whereas coming to redeclaration, you can redeclare with var and let, but you can't redeclare with constant. Again, when you're trying to reassign, you cannot reassign any value in the constant, whereas in var and let you can reassign, as you can see over here. Okay, this is the primary difference. And second most topic that we discussed, important topic, is hoisting. Okay, hoisting is nothing but whenever as we saw over here, whenever we declare any variable, you can access it, but you can't access the value. It won't be assigned any value. We saw that it was undefined, and even when we try to do it with let, even that happened. But we just got a you're trying to access something before initialization, so those values will be already assigned, but you can't just access it. Okay, so this is what has happened. You'll get a constant error and as such. So that's one of the things that you should know. So shall I move on to the next topic, data types, or you guys have questions regarding constant, var, and let? Okay. So just one more thing is, so as I said, okay, so I just wanted to show you this thing here. So in the future, if you guys want to reference more to it, so I got it from here. The whatever I taught you right now is from here. So as I said, I am referencing to W3 schools, and so they're given this table over here, which is really, so this is what I was talking over here is. Okay, so differences between var, let, and constant. So if you guys you want to take a screenshot or you want to visit this website and store it, so this is very important. Okay, so what they mean by scope is they're talking reference to local scope. They're saying yes and yes, and when it's constant, it's no. As I said, redeclaring is available in var, but it's not available in let and constant. Reassigning, we saw it was only over here. And hoisting, as you can see, we saw over here that it was undefined, but when we try to do with let and constant, we saw that we got an error saying that assignment to constant variable, no, not assignment to constant variable. We got assignment before initialize, something like that. Hold on, let me show you that. Okay, this thing, we saw that we cannot access AI before initialization, so that thing will be happening. So you need to know these differences. This is very important when it comes to interview perspectives, and this is like the basic question. So whenever you try to get a score, get some time, just go through this. Okay, so they're given W3 schools have really structured this very well. They're given this. And one more thing that I got forgot function. Usually, if you're using var and declaring any variable, you will do it only if you want to write your code with reference to any old process. So, for example, you're trying to write a code or write a web application that you want to support even the oldest browsers. So, a browser that existed before probably to 2015, you want to support those, then you'd be using the var word keyword. If not, most of the if you're writing a web application which is supposed to support only the newest browsers that are available, then you'd be using Latin constant. And you should know what is var, but most of the cases when you're typing the code, you would prefer to Latin const. Okay, so moving on to next concept. Okay. So we'll be moving on to the next concept called as data types. Okay. So you guys have come across data types in many other languages that you've studied, such as in Java there's data types, and in Python there's data types. So what do you guys think the data types that are available in JavaScript? It is quite common across all languages. So what do you guys think about the data types that are present in JavaScript? So the question is data types in JavaScript. What are the data types that you guys think or you guys know that are existing in JavaScript. Okay, string and string number boolean number boolean string object. Okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, guys, I'm expecting more responses. There's like 44 of you guys, and there's only 10. So it's a simple question too. Data types, and you come across that in like almost every subject, every programming language that you could pick. What are the data types? Int, float, string, object. Okay, I want everyone to respond to this question, please. Thanks. Okay, that's it. No one else wants to respond. Okay, there's response coming. I didn't just scroll down. Okay. Nitin Kumar, Vesh, I am Sharif, Pokemon, Priya. Okay. Harshit. Okay, Harshit is. I think Harshit woke up from his sleep. He didn't respond last time. He's responding now. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20. Okay, so that was 24 options. So, yeah, I think that's pretty good. So let's move on. So as I think one of you guys, I think it was Lakshmi, if I'm right. So Lakshmi, Varun, all of you said the right answer, but and one more, who was it? Yeah, Lakshmi. So Lakshmi and Varun, you guys were right on, and all of you are right. But primarily, the data types are differentiated into two types. That is primitive and non-primitive. Primitives are like those data types that they're not derived from anything. They're existing right there, like a building block. So under that we have totally seven. So one is number, big int, an integer. Then we have string. Then we have boolean. Then we have unidentified. Then we have null type. Okay, these are the seven different data types that are present in JavaScript. Okay, so as you one of the ways that you could, if you want to know, let's say, and I log this. Okay, the keyword is type of. Okay, if I wanna, like, let's say even in if you take Python or anything like that, you have a type keyword similar to that. In even in JS, you have a keyword known as type of. And one more thing, guys, as we saw in HTML and CSS. So whenever I go on and I want to know something this will see there's one more feature in VS Code that is really important and helpful to me as well. So for example, there's some keyword that you want to know what it does. So you just you hold on to the control from your keypad, then you whoever whichever you want to know, and you click on it. Then it will give you a real world example, and you can even see some of the things that they've given, namespace, var, functions that are used. These are some, like, you didn't know everything, but if you want, in the future you want to know something that is related to console, console can be printed dot headset q em, like these are the other functions that are related to console. And if you want to go over any of these and you want to study more about this, they have also given follow link. Let me, I think, who are you can see over here again, it will go to the same MDN website that we saw earlier. We could see that they've given examples of how it works and everything like that. This is one of the good ways to have a practice when you're when you're coding. Just hold on to this and click on it and see where it leads to. You can see some examples too. So this would be very useful. Right now I'm using some basic functions such as console.log and stuff like that. But in the future, when you get into coding, you'll be using few functions that is not really common. and you need to understand how the function works and everything like that. You want to know the input and the parameters, everything. For that, you could read this documentation and understand how it works. Okay, and so I just want to tell you that. So as soon as you can see over here, like right now, it is just a number. So when we try to print it, it will print the data type of that. So okay, I was printing the wrong choice, my bad. Okay, so as you can see over here, it is just a number. Okay, so that's like one of the ways that you could know. And as I told you guys, like the other ways that are present over here is unidentified and null. And non-primitive data types would be object, arrays, and functions. Okay, so this is a small note that I have made. You know, so just to okay, just gonna put this in the chat box. If you guys want it, you could reference this. Okay, and primitive is a primitive reference non-primitive. Okay, this is better. Okay, so just put this. So if you guys want to reference it in any time, you could do that. So there's as I said, 7 types. So there's string, number, boolean, null, unidentified, symbol, and begin. Okay, so and non-primitive would be array, object, functions. Okay, and one of the thing, like one of the most again asked question was is JavaScript dynamic or static? Okay, so so it would be dynamically typed. So I'll show you an example why it would be dynamically typed. Right now you could see that my type is just a constant. It is a it has a variable. Let me just change it to let, because with constant I can't change anything. Okay, and over here I could go and change the type of that. Okay, let's say I want to make it an array. Okay, and I log this. So you can see that it became an object. And like whenever you come across other data types such as array, functions, and they all will be called as object. They'll be belonging to an object. For example, even if you take a null, even null would be reference to an object. For example, if I declare this to a null, okay, even the output of this would be object. And even if I wanna make an identified, even that would be an object. As you can see over here, it has undefined has its own data type, and whereas null and everything will belong to an object. So you guys, it's one of the most important questions too in interview perspective. Of they will ask if I wanna log, and if I wanna know the data type of null. Null is just belongs to an object. It doesn't belong to a separate thing. So whereas if it is undefined, it has its own data type that is undefined. Okay, and one more thing is, like, for example, have you guys heard about now it's clear, I think, data types. So there's, I'll just summarize. So data types, there's 2 types: primitive and non-primitive. And in primitive we have, as we saw here in the example, they belong to primitive data types like string, number, boolean, identify, symbol, and begin. And array, objects, and functions would be non-primitive. And one more thing is, with respect to null, even that belongs to object. Okay, so you guys need to know that. And is it clear? Shall I move on to type conversion, or do you want me to slow down and repeat these topics? Yes, is it clear so far? Are you able to catch up to me, or you want me to repeat any of those? Am I going too fast? Okay, clear, sir. Okay. So, yeah, I'll be moving on to the next topic in that case. Okay. Okay. So, since you guys said it's pretty clear, a few of you guys, so I'll move on to the next topic, that is type conversion. So, have you guys heard about type conversion? Does it have you guys come across it? Converting type of a variable or anything like that? Okay. 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 Good. So let's say I have Ian Sharif. Okay, in Python. In Python we have, okay. So let's say I have declared something like let's say variable. So I have 22. Let's say I just have a. Okay. So 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 let's say I want to convert this like like let's say let me just make it fun. Okay. So or anything. Let's just say a is 10. Okay, and I want this a to be converted into a string. So how could I do it? If I want to convert 10 into a string, I know I could just put quotes over here and it would become a string. Not like that. If I want to do it using a function, how would I do it? Let's say I want to convert a to a string. Like just let's forget about JavaScript. You just want to do it. Okay, and how would you do it? If you want to convert 10 into a, the value of a into a string, what is the code script that you would write to do that? Okay, to string. And what are the other methods? Okay, so you guys were right. So you said let's try. So we'll try one of the methods that I saw was to do this, right? So you asked me to use str. You asked me to type this, right? So okay, so it says I can't do it. Now let's say so str. Okay, you guys want? Okay, let's try string of them. So yeah. Okay, so you guys are right. So one of the ways that you could do is, as you guys said, we use the function that is string, and we pass a into it. And then we bring this. Okay. Okay. So here we could see that it has been changed. If I put this in a bracket and I do type of, then we could see the it has been comma string. Sorry, your voice. Okay. Sorry. Thank you for letting me know that. So yeah. One of the ways that you could do like convert it from a number to a string would be, this is one of the ways that you use the method that is string, like as you do in let's say Python, where you say one of these methods, you have str, then you try to do it. This is the one of the ways where you do it. And another one would be something called as using backticks. This is one of the very important methods. So on your keypad, if you take your keypad right, below escape key, you'll have something called as backticks. These are backticks. Don't get confused. This is quotes, and these are backticks. Those are two different things. Okay, I'm not referring to quotes. I'm rather using backticks. Backticks are right above your tab keyword key, below the escape key, you'll have a backtick. Then you put a dollar symbol over there. Then you have a bracket. Then you put a over there. So this is one of the ways. So have you guys heard about formatting strings in Python? F, you'll have something called as F. Like, you could do this F and you have brackets, then you could print anything that you want. Let's say I want to put something high, something like that. Okay, so yeah, so this works the same thing. So when you're doing in Python, you'd have the F keyword, but right now you're not trying to use that F keyword. Right, rather you'd use backticks. Okay, so backticks would work similar to formatting. Okay? When you want to format the output or format your strings, then you'd be using the backticks and the dollar symbol followed by flower brackets. Okay, this is one of the common methods to print any of the variables that you have declared in your code, and you'll come across this in the future too. You'll be using a lot of this, like backticks. You put a dollar, then you write it there. This is very important. So it is not like not in an entry perspective when you're trying to code something. This is very important. This is one of the ways, and the other way would be, I think one of you guys even said that space and you put a over there, even that you're trying to convert. Okay, again you would get a string, or there's also a method known as toString. Maybe you guys have heard it. Even in Python it's there, toString. Okay, it does the same thing. Okay, those are the four methods. One is to, as you key, one of the thing is you can use string, so this keypad. Then other one be, you'd be using backticks, where you have a dollar, then you can put whatever you want. And the third one would be you're putting something like a string or something in front of it, and when you try to concatenate with any other numbers, what will happen is it will totally convert into a on a string itself. And third method, as you can see over here, it is the toString. So this is one of the common ways that you could convert a number from toString. Okay, and I'm going to give you a small exercise. I think, okay. Okay. So guys, so this code that I've written, it is quite obvious that we could see that there's code, and I've given it a string of 33. And as you expected, the type of score would be what? It would be just a string, and that is quite obvious, right? So when I have taken another one, I given a value number and number is score, then I have converted it. Then would the value number type would be number, right? So that's wrong. Okay. Okay, as you can see, it was converted. First it was a string, then it got converted. Okay, now I'm going to give you a small exercise. Okay, let's say there was something, a string, where it contained both a number and it contained a string. It contained a alphabets, characters, or anything that you want to call. And I convert this into something, and now I'll try to print it. Okay, let's say I was printing it. So what do you guys think the output would be? Like I have printed the type of it, and I have also printed what's the value would be. So can you guys let me know what the output would be for this? What would be the output for these two? Okay. Abhishek has answered it would be type error. And what are the other students' answer? Number error, error, error. So are you guys saying that the code wouldn't run and there would be error thrown? Is that what you guys are trying to say? Or okay, error. Okay. Okay, the code wouldn't be run. Okay. Okay. Error. Okay, guys, just for small clarification. So you guys think the code won't be executed at all. So there will be an error and the code would terminate. It wouldn't even execute. then raise your hand. If you guys think that the code wouldn't even execute and there'd be an, the code will be terminated since there is an error, so raise your hand. If you guys, okay, I don't want you guys to Google it. Just if you think it would an error, raise your hand. Code won't be executed and there'll be an error. If you think so, then raise your hand. Okay. What about the rest? There's 37 people, and like 8 of you guys have raised your hand. So others are saying that the code would be executed. If you think the code won't be executed, okay, executed. Okay, okay. We'll get back to that. So what about the rest? Sonika is saying that it would be executed, and there's one person saying it would be executed. So there's 10 of you saying some poll. What about the other rest of you guys? Yes, if you think it would be executed, then at least put a text box. If you think it won't be executed, raise your hand. And at least expecting half of you guys to respond to that. Okay. Be confident about your answer. If you think it would be an error and it won't be executed, then raise your hand. Okay. If you think it would be executed, then type it. Okay. I think executed. Okay. I got 3 saying executed. That's 3, and that's like what? 12 of you. So 12 plus 3 is 15. I need more responses. There's 37. I need at least more than that. Maybe at least 20 of you guys. If you answer, then I will move on. Okay, 13. More responses, guys. There's like 38 of you guys in the class. So if you think it would be executed, at least put a text box. If you don't think it would be executed, raise your hand. If you think it would be an error, raise your hand. Okay. What about Aishwarya, Ananya? I think Ganesh, I think even you type something. Bhavana, Bhumika, Deepika, Ganesh, Gautam, Karthik. What do you guys think? Raise your hand or put something. Okay. You guys can lower your hand. I think. Okay. So what you guys said was like, yeah, it won't whoever commented, they were right about it. So it will be executed. There won't be any error that will be showing up. It will just show something called as none. None is not the thing that you eat. None is not a number. So that was NaN refers to. So yeah, you guys can lower your hand. I got it. You can lower your hand. So as you guys said, so it would be a non. So non is again, it belongs to the same thing. So it is a data type. So it refers to object. So non is a separate data type. Okay, it's just as we said, like number, begin, and those stuff. Non is a separate thing. It is called as not a number, and it has its own data type, that is NaN. And whenever you try to convert a string into a number and you try to print it, it will be an NaN. So this is very important to know. And undefined, as we saw earlier, undefined, and you should know when you would get non. So these are the common things or debugging tools that you need to know when you come to interview perspectives. And these are also common questions that are asked. Okay, these are the common ways that you would come across. Okay. Okay, guys. So I have one more small exercise for you, all of you guys. So let's take out this. Okay. I want you guys to even, try to get the output for all these 3 locks. So this is 1, and this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So I want you guys to try this out and see what you don't execute the code. Rather, just try to understand what is happening and try to get the output for these. There's not much difference between 1 and 2, so let's just take it out. Okay, so tell me the difference between 1 and 1, 2. Let's just take these 3. So what do you guys think the output is? 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Okay, 3, 2. Okay. Rest of you guys? Okay, 12, 14, 32. Okay. 12, 14, 32. Okay. I guess guys try to answer the question. There's three types of locks, and what would happen? Try to understand it and see what's going on. Yes, you need to be very quick. These questions will be asked, and you'll be provided probably 2 or 3 minutes to answer these. In like when you face interviews, so it's necessary that you are able to calculate this at a faster rate. Okay. Yes, I want all of you to try it. It's a simple question. You're just logging. So try to answer the question. So there's very few people who are interacting. So it would be better if you all of you guys are like trying to solve these questions. And whatever the questions that I'm asking, like you could express this in like these are really quite common questions. These two, two, three, four. Okay, 15. What about other students? Like okay, Deepika, Ganesh, Girish, Gautam, Hamza, Karthik. Karthik, I think you responded in the first few questions. After that, I didn't receive any response. And Kushi Viraj, I didn't see even one response from you. Lavanya, the same. Likit, I've seen responses. Madhuri, I don't recall any response from you. Mithun, I saw your response. Yeah, I saw you too. Manish, I saw that. Niranjan. Niranjan, what happened? Like I didn't see any response from Niranjan. Okay, yeah, Niranjan answered that. Okay. So you guys are right. So it would be 12, 14, and 32. Okay, so the 12, like as you can see over here, what happens over here is as soon as you start off with a string, so over here this is quite simple. Over here you're just getting a number two, and when you try to like append any number with a string, it would be a string. But whereas when you try to do it with like we have it starts off with a string, and then you have a number followed by it. What happens is the number would be joining to this, and it would be a string concatenation. Again, you would join this two with this, like 122 would be again a string. So the total would be 122, not 14. And here the same thing will happen. What happens is you're joining 3 or 2 plus 1, that would be 3. Then after that you're joining a string. But whereas if I put this in the center, and you guys can see a difference taking place. So let's say I do that. Okay. Okay. So now you can see the same thing happening. You see, the same thing would happen 122. So whenever you have a string either in between or it's starting off with that, then you could see that it will just become a string concatenation. It won't be executed as arithmetic operation where you're adding, rather it would be behaving as string concatenation. So these are very like common things that you're supposed to know. As you can see, it will be when I put it all the way in the back. This. Okay, there will be 32. So these are so people who have said it's 14, just understand the concept, don't memorize it. Like here, what is happening is it started off with a string. First thing that you're doing a string concatenation, then it would become a 12. Then again 12 is the string. Then again it's getting concatenated with 2. That's where it becomes 122. Okay? Just know that what's the operation that is being performed. Don't memorize it. And that's about it.